what have I now done? Is there not a cause?
Boy, that brother right there sounds like Saul. Eli. Yeah.
And so David is just, hey, he's very observant, right?
Mm-hmm.
and Eliab is kind of right, but at the same time, he's coming down there doing exactly what his father asked him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you the youngest, sometimes, you always gonna get chastised. You always gonna get, riddled for whatever you do because you the baby. And so I can really relate to David, especially in this situation where the brother's like, what you doing up here? And what's up with them sheep? Where them sheep at? Why every time his brothers or his father mention him, they always throw the sheep in there with him?
Okay. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You don't supposed to be over here messing with people. I mean, you watch your brother, keep your brother out of trouble. So you looking at him as a nuisance.
I don't know if y'all want me to explain this or what. I can. I don't know how
you
want
to
do.
Ride that horse.
So then I might say ride that horse. I ain't riding the horse, man. and the men of Israel, they saw him come up. This is supposed to be the army people. So David walked up, and they just explained it to him, what has been decreed and what Saul told, because obviously he's scared and he's a coward. We've seen that throughout his life. But he's gonna make somebody a good offer. He said, whoever killed this uncircumcised Philistine, and he might not have said that, those are David's words. He said, I got some rewards for you. First of all, you're gonna get great riches. And I was saying earlier, when David was selected, Jesse got so happy because his son was selected, because I believe, now I'm just speculating, that he was thinking, yeah, are we about to be paid?
Oh, I agree.
And so here's another instance where Saul offers money. He said, hey, all you got to do is kill this guy. Now, of course, this is a tall ask. First of all, who is this champion? And I'm sure they explained the armor itself. Goliath could just took that armor and dropped it on David's head and killed him. If that was the case. So, I mean, and then he offered great riches. He also offered his daughter. And then the last thing he offered him, he said, and his house would be free. They wouldn't have to pay no more taxes to the king. And so it's a great deal that he's offering. And I don't know if he understands that God's going to get the victory and that David is going to be the man that does that. And he's going to have to pay up. And so he said, Go ahead.
And you out there gonna say what stand out for me is that 26, when David said, "For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Well, that's not a powerful statement. You all don't know who backing you all. We shouldn't even be scared of him. He should be scared of us. Look who we got backing us. So he knew who his armor protector was. He knew who had him.
And not only that, just let those words translate to us. We have giants too. We have Goliaths in our life.
Oh man!
And like Griffin was saying earlier, a lot of those giants are familiar to us. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And that's what the devil use. He'll use something that we know or we feel like we know. Hey,
I can't beat that.
Right.
I feel like I can. It comes. Our biggest temptation, the one we wrestle with all the time. Sometimes we say, "Man, there's no way I can beat that." I've been wrestling with it all my life, and that's what the devil uses. He uses that giant in your life that you're familiar with, and we say in our heart that we can't beat it. We forget who our God is. Our God can overcome anything.
And I say this too, is expressed right here in a statement, bro, Davis. I guess, is it Davis? Davis. Expressing this statement, Davis, Vigilant Davis. That David has an immense amount of faith in God. And that has to be us. Those giants are not going to be defeated unless we have that faith. We got to have unwavering faith. The Bible teaches us that if we confess our sin, he is faithful and he is just to forgive us of our sin and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. But if we come to God and say, well, Lord, I know you know what I'm saying, I might be living with this for the rest of you not already defeated yourself.
Already defeated yourself, yeah.
So we had to have that David-like faith when we facing those giants. And I'm a living witness that he can do anything but fail.
Oh, no, definitely. I just like the fact when he said, who is he to defy the armies? He was letting them know who we belong to. Well, he was letting them know who they belong. He already knew who he belonged to. They didn't understand that, because if they did, they would have stood fast with him.
And just in comparison to, their man, really. Once they heard Goliath say all that great stuff, what did they do?
I want to go back to what you were saying about Saul, man, and why he was offering all this stuff. That's because Saul didn't believe in God,
Right.
He didn't believe God would bring him through, so he was going to buy him a champion. He was going to buy him a champion, and if that champion failed, he gonna offer all that stuff to the next champion, to somebody beat Goliath, and then he was going to put that person at his side. That was going to be his armor bearer, whoever that person was that beat Goliath, because he had no faith in God. He only had faith in what he could acquire with his resources, his money, his power. That's what he had faith in.
Right, and then get them freedom. But then when you were saying it, I mean, he got good reason.
And you know what? Another thing on 28, when his brother Eliab was upset with him for speaking out. Eliab, how your mama said, if you let something happen to your little brother or your dad, you let something happen to your brother, we gonna take care of you. So Eliab probably said, this man out here run. Eliab probably didn't even look at him as gonna be what God is gonna allow him to do. He probably looked at it, I'm gonna have to take up for this brother, and I don't want to get out there with this man. So man, shut up.
The only thing Eliab did was how a lot of these bullies do when they know they about to lose. They go pick somebody and start picking on people who they feel like they are more mightier than. You know what I'm saying? So he just took his anger and then pointed toward David.
Yeah.
What you doing out here? All right, we soldiers. Not today, you're not.
That's right. That reminds me, man, of that the scene in Friday when Day was talking to Craig. He said, "Man, when you come out here doing all this stuff, man, I gotta live out here. You ain't gotta live out
here." And that's all it was, man. He already knew, David, but Goliath scared everybody. The whole camp was shaking. You know what I'm saying? And they had been out there forever, man. This dude right here, man, he was basically saying these words, and that's how I figured it was just disrespectful. Where your God is? Come on. What you gonna do, Israel? Where your God at now? You know what I'm saying? And ain't no telling whatever else he was saying. If your God's so mighty, then I'm gonna do this to your God. You know what I'm saying? He was saying all kind of stuff because it said he was railing insults. Anything he could think of for 40 whole days. I'm pretty sure he had a lot to say.
He had a lot of insults. He came up with all type of stuff.
He started playing around, and you gonna see what he gonna say once David step up to him.
Okay, let's move on to that part. What did we stop at? Okay,
30.
We
stopped at
29.
29. So stop at 30, right?
Started at 30, yeah.
All right, so let's read let's read 30 on down to 38. Let's stop at 38.
All right.
Okay. He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the man answered him as before. When David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul went for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. your servant will go and fight him. Saul replied, you are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man. And he had been a warrior from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear comes and carries off a sheep from the fold, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defiled the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the palms of the lion and the palm of the bear will rescue me from the hands of this Philistine. Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Then Saul dressed David in his own tulip. He put a coat of armor on him and brass helmet on his head.
So, when I read that part, man, I think about Jesus as the Redeemer, saving us from the lion's mouth and saving us from the bear's hand. And I see the allegory between him and David right here, but also at the same time, man, I see that the power that David was anointed with, and his love, and this again would make him a man after God's own heart. You think about the parable about the one sheep that was lost. When you would go back and get that one sheep, you'll leave the flock to go get that one sheep. And we see David illustrating this right here, way before Jesus was said, thousands of years later. And again, we see that I don't know if Saul really believed what David was saying, but he knew that he had somebody who was going to try, because I don't think nobody else was coming up to him like, hey, man, let me be the one. So Saul said, go ahead and be, and may God be with you.
It also showed. It also showed how desperate he was. For 40 days, and you ain't got no warrior, nobody that's finna lose their life, so he think. And then initially he was like, "No, I'm not gonna let you go out there. You just a little boy." But David was like, he said, "All right, well, I guess, hey, go on out there then. Here, man, you need some armor." We put him on his armor. Saul, he was desperate. And just like you said, this was the only person that didn't, shaking their boots like he did. So, all right, man, may the Lord be with you. I don't know why he said that, because he didn't believe in the Lord.
He didn't believe in the Lord. It was just something to say.
I'm gonna have to intercede on that. I think he was a little. I think Saul was a little conceited. I'll say that he was a lot conceited, but I'm not gonna say he didn't believe. Because it looks from my standpoint, as even though when David presented himself and he told him that they have God's people scared, this God's army, and he was telling them everything that he had did, what he had to do about the sheep and protecting the sheep, and how he protected the sheep from the lions and bears and all that. It looks like to me, then he said, moreover, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he would deliver me from the hand of the Philistines. And Saul understood that. That looked like that stood out more than anything. Not that Saul would call out God's name, but I'm looking at his recollection that over the time, who's been delivering us? God's been doing. When Samuel interceded and went to his God and prayed, he did the work. So when David said, that's who's going to protect me, that's who's going to allow me to overcome this man, I think he really, that kind of made him change his mind a little bit. Because at first he was looking at him, you too young, you a little runt, you this and that. But when he told him about what God can do, looked like his thought pattern changed then to me.
You got more faith in Saul than I do. But I believe Saul is one of them people in church that have a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. Saul ain't saved, man. I also